They believed distance would protect them. They believed oceans would delay us. They believed that American power was loud but not precise, wealthy but not disciplined, ambitious but not relentless. History has a way of humbling those assumptions. Because when the United States commits its industry, its engineers, and its sons to a single objective, the result is not incremental, it is overwhelming. And nowhere was that more evident than in the cold skies over Europe, when American air power transformed from vulnerable formations of bombers into an unstoppable system of dominance that reshaped the war itself. In the early years of the air campaign against Nazi Germany, American bombers flew deep into hostile territory with courage that bordered on defiance. The doctrine was clear: daylight precision bombing. Hit the factories, cripple the oil, break the rail lines, destroy the machinery of war without targeting cities indiscriminately. But courage alone was not enough. German fighters climbed into the formations with ruthless efficiency. Anti-aircraft fire filled the sky with black explosions. Crews completed missions knowing that statistically, many of them would not survive the required tour. The bombers could reach Germany. The question was whether they could survive it. The answer arrived in the shape of a sleek, long-range fighter that would quietly redefine air superiority: the P-51 Mustang. With its Rolls-Royce Merlin engine built under American license and its extraordinary fuel range, the Mustang did something no Allied fighter had fully achieved before. It did not merely escort bombers to the edge of danger, it went all the way, deep into Germany, to Berlin and beyond. Suddenly, American bombers were no longer isolated prey. They were part of a coordinated machine. Heavy bombers above, aggressive fighters sweeping ahead, hunting interceptors before they could even organize an attack. The psychological shift was immediate. German pilots who once waited confidently for escort fighters to turn back now found American Mustangs circling their own airfields. Under the command of Lieutenant General James H. Doolittle, the 8th Air Force changed tactics in a way that shocked the Luftwaffe. Escort fighters were no longer ordered to cling tightly to bomber formations at all times. They were unleashed. If German fighters took off, American fighters would meet them early. If enemy aircraft tried to regroup, they were pursued. If airfields were exposed, they were strafed. This was not passive protection. It was air dominance. Doolittle understood something fundamental. You do not win air superiority defensively. You seize it. One of the clearest demonstrations of this new American confidence came during the massive bombing operations against Berlin in 1944 and 1945. For years, the Nazi capital had been portrayed as a fortress of steel and flak, shielded by layers of anti-aircraft guns and fighter squadrons. Yet American planners believed something different. They believed that if enough coordinated force was applied, enough aircraft, enough fuel, enough discipline, the defenses would bend. And so, wave after wave of B-17 flying fortresses and B-24 liberators crossed the continent under escort. Hundreds became thousands. The sky itself seemed engineered. Inside those bombers were young men in their early 20s, oxygen masks freezing against their faces at 25,000 feet, manning 50 caliber machine guns that vibrated with controlled violence. They were not abstract symbols of power. They were farm boys, mechanics, students, factory workers, citizens turned aircrew, representing a nation that had converted peacetime industry into wartime capability at a scale the world had never seen. Every aircraft above Germany represented thousands of workers back home: machinists in Michigan, aluminum plant workers in Washington, engine builders in Ohio. American air power was not just military strategy, it was logistical mathematics executed perfectly. When German fighters rose to challenge the formations, they increasingly faced a different reality. Mustangs diving from altitude, P-47 Thunderbolts sweeping in high-speed passes, relentless pursuit. The Luftwaffe began losing experienced pilots faster than it could replace them. Training hours dropped. Fuel shortages intensified as American bombers targeted synthetic oil plants. The very infrastructure required to defend German skies was being dismantled piece by piece. What had once been an aggressive and confident Air Force became reactive, strained, and cautious. There were still losses. There was still flak, heavy, accurate, and deadly. Entire crews vanished in mid-air explosions. Parachutes opened over hostile territory. Prison camps filled with captured airmen. Victory did not come without sacrifice, but the ratio had changed. The initiative had shifted. American bombers were reaching targets with increasing consistency, and more importantly, they were determined. The mission completion rates improved. The myth of untouchable German airspace began to erode. By early 1945, cumulative effect was undeniable. Rail hubs in Berlin were shattered. Oil production was crippled. Aircraft factories struggled under repeated strikes. Communication lines faltered. The once feared German fighter response used morale. American fighters were no longer merely reactive. They were patrolling at will. The sky over Europe had transitioned from contested to control. Control of the air meant something decisive, the ability to shape everything beneath it. For American audiences watching newsreels back home, the sight of hundreds of bombers in tight formation symbolized more than firepower. It symbolized organization. It symbolized resolve. It symbolized a nation capable of projecting strength across an ocean and sustaining it month after month. There was pride not only in the bravery of the air crews, but in the system that made such missions possible. Shipyards launched vessels at record pace. Factories produced aircraft faster than losses could diminish them. Training programs scaled efficiently. Innovation adapted rapidly to battlefield realities. This was not accidental, it was structural. When historians analyze why the air war shifted so decisively, they often point to numbers: sorties flown, aircraft produced, targets destroyed. But behind those numbers lies something deeper: the American capacity for coordinated escalation, the ability to identify a weakness, in this case bomber vulnerability, and respond not with hesitation, but with design, engineering, and production at unprecedented scale. The Mustang was not just a fighter, it was a solution. And once deployed in sufficient numbers, it altered the tempo of the entire conflict. By the time Allied ground forces pushed deeper into Western Europe, they did so under skies largely cleared of organized German resistance. Supply lines moved more freely. Armored columns advanced with reduced fear of air attack. The strategic bombing campaign had not won the war alone, but it had removed critical pillars supporting the Nazi war machine. It had drained fuel reserves, eliminated veteran pilots, and forced Germany into a defensive posture from which it could not recover. In the final months of the war, as American bombers continued to strike key infrastructure and fighters roamed aggressively, the broader truth became impossible to ignore. Air superiority was not an abstract achievement. It was a multiplier. It accelerated the collapse. It constrained enemy movement. It projected inevitability. And it demonstrated something that would define American military doctrine for decades to come. Control the air, and you shape the battlefield. The story of American air power in World War II is not simply about aircraft models or mission statistics. It is about transformation. It is about how a nation mobilized its industry, empowered its commanders, trusted its pilots, and adapted faster than its adversary. It is about how technological refinement, when matched with strategic clarity, can shift the balance of a global conflict. In the frozen skies above Europe, among contrails and flak bursts, a new reality emerged. The United States had learned not just how to fight a modern air war, but how to dominate one. And once that dominance was established, it did not fade. It became doctrine. It became expectation. It became part of what the world would come to understand whenever American aircraft appeared overhead. If they are there in force, the outcome is only a matter of time. That is the enduring legacy of those missions. Not just that they struck targets, not just that they broke defenses, but that they proved something larger. That when American power aligns its technology, its production, and its people towards a single objective, the sky itself can change hands.